Hello everyone and welcome to your first online learning session. Hope everyone is staying safe and sound. Throughout the next couple of days, we will be doing notes and activities through Google Classroom. So make sure you are on Google Classroom for all of your classes each and every day. To start, you're going to need a notebook, a writing utensil, and a highlighter. If you don't have a highlighter, a colored pen would work. If at any point you need to pause this video, please do so. If I go too fast, feel free to pause and rewind. This is for you, so go at your pace. Now that we all have our materials, let's go ahead and get started. In this notebook, we are going to have our warm-ups and our notes. So, since this is our first online learning session, we are going to start by putting a number 1 in the top right-hand corner. Now we're going to label today's date. Today is the 31st of March. Now, to begin, we are going to do our warm-up. So I want everyone to write the word warm-up and put a box around it. In our warm-up and in our notes, we're going to be doing a review session of the most important concept you learned, well, one of them, which is factoring. So we're going to review factoring, then you're going to have an activity on it. So in order to review factoring, first we have to remember how we multiply. That is our direction for our first warm-up problem. So we're going to multiply x plus 6 and x plus 2. Hopefully you remember how to do this. If not, no problem. We are going to draw a box. Kudos to you if you knew that. Now it doesn't matter where you put this x plus 6. It can either go on the left or on the top. I'm going to choose to put it on the left. And then for the x plus 2, that is going to go on the top. Now, how do we fill the insides of the box? We are going to multiply just like the direction says. X times x, remember that's adding the exponents, which is 1 plus 1. That gives us an x squared. That goes in your top box. Now I'm going to go to this box. X times 2, 2x. This bottom box is 6 and x. Multiply that. That gives me 6x. Then 6 times 2, 12. Now some of you know we are going to draw a peanut now, or you know to write everything on one line, and then we are going to combine our like terms. Same signs, therefore we add. So my final answer is x squared plus 8x plus 12. Now, you just learned how to factor this. So, we're going to do that. See if we remember. So you're going to write the word factor. And you are going to factor x squared plus 8x plus 12. First thing you do, you're going to draw a box. This is where your highlighter comes into play. You need 2 different colors. This guy right here, he's gonna go in the first box. Next color, he's gonna go in the bottom box. Now you're gonna multiply them. X squared times 12. Which gives me 12x. I write it off to the side. Ask yourself, what numbers multiply to give you 12x squared? That would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Hopefully you can't think of any more because there aren't any more. Now that you have these, you're coming up with which one of these options adds to give you 8x. 1 plus 12, that gives me 13. That's not it. 2 plus 6, well, that does give me 8. So let's just check 3 plus 4. Nope, that's 7. So our option, which is going to be 2x and 6x, doesn't matter which box you put those in. Now we have to get the left side of the box and the top of the box. So we're going to pull out the GCF, which is the greatest common factor. So looking up and down at my first column, what does x squared and 2x have in common? That would be an x. Let's go to our next column, 6x and 12. We want the biggest number that goes into both of those numbers. Positive 6. Now go left to right. X squared and 6x, they only have an x in common. And then 2x and 12. Just a 2. So therefore, my factors are x plus 2 and x plus 6. That is my final answer. Now I'm going to give you guys one of each to complete on your own. You're going to multiply x plus 20 and x plus 1. Go ahead and do that. Hopefully you have finished by now. You should have x squared and x, 20x and 20 inside your box for a final answer of x squared plus 21x plus 20. Now where did I get this 21 from? I added my like terms. Now you're going to do a factoring one. X squared plus 21x plus 20. Go ahead and factor it. First thing you should do is draw a box. I'll give you a second. All right, you should have x squared in your first box, 20 in your bottom box. You go off to the side, you multiply, you get 20x squared. You come up with your numbers that multiply to give you 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 5 and 4. Now, among these options, you're looking to see which ones add up to 21x. Is it going to be 2 and 10? Nope, that adds to 12. 4 and 5, that adds to 9. There we go. 1 and 20. So it doesn't matter which box you put them in. I'm just going to put the 1x here. No, you don't need the 1 in front of it, but you may write it. And then I'm going to put the 20x in this one. Make sure they both have x's next to them. Now in order to pull out the left side and the top, you are doing the greatest common factor. If you need to refer back to the one beforehand, go ahead and do that. The first column, x squared and x. It's pretty easy. They just have an x in column. This one's pretty easy too. 20x and 20. Well, they both have the number 20. Then again, I have x squared and 20x. They've got an x in common. And then a 1x and a 20. Now this is a little hard. They've got an x and a 20. What is the biggest number they have in common? Well, 20 can't go into x, and x can't go into 20, so it's neither of those. This is the greatest common factor, 1. So my final answer is x plus 1 and x plus 20. All right, we have now completed our warm-up. Make sure, again, your paper is labeled with the date and the number. And we are going to flip the page and go ahead and get started with our notes. So I want everyone to write the word notes, put a box around it. If you want to highlight it to make it stand out, that's a good idea. So in our notes, we are just factoring. Now I'm going to throw ones in there with different signs. So you have to be very careful. Our first one is x squared minus 7x plus 10. I will guide you through this. Step 1, draw a box. Step 2, first term, first box. Last term, last box. Multiply. 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. Now, you need them to add up to -7. So, we need to add to -7, but multiply to a positive number. My only options are a positive and a positive, because when you multiply those, you get a positive, or both negatives. Because if you multiply that, it'll give you a positive. So, if I add both of these up, I need them to add up to give me -7. So it's got to be either 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. Well, if I add 1 and 10, that gives me 11, so that's not it. So it's going to have to be 2x and 5x. But it can't be positive. They both can't be positive because we have a negative here. And it can't be one's positive and one's negative because that wouldn't work. So just like we wrote over here, they both have to be negative. Now, pull out your greatest common factor. I got an x up top. On the bottom, I'm pulling out a -5. Or I'm sorry, on the top. On the left, I'm pulling out an x again. And now, what am I going to pull out on the bottom, on the left side here? You can also ask yourself, if I have a -5 here, what number right here would give me if I multiplied a positive 10? -2 would be your option. So your factors are x minus 2 and x minus 5. That is your answer. Question 2. You've got x squared minus 14x plus 40. Go ahead and factor that. All right, you have a box. First term is x squared, last term is 40. You multiply them. What numbers multiply to 40? I know 1 and 40. I know 5 and 8. Oop, I didn't go in order that time because I forgot 4 and 10, 2 and 20. Now, just like the first one, we want it to multiply to a positive number, but when we add, it's got to be a negative number. So my only options are going to be either positive, positive, or negative, negative. And I'm going to have to do negative, negative. So if it makes it easier for yourself, go ahead and put the negative sign in the box in front of the number. Now I need to know that when I add these sets, it has to give me negative 14. So which option that multiplies to 40 adds to negative 14? That would be negative 4x and negative 10x. Now what's the next step? Pull out the greatest common factor. You should know this by now. That's going to be an x and an x. Now here, what number both goes into negative 10x and 40? Negative 10. And then negative 4 and 40? Negative 4. I have x minus 4 and x minus 10. All right. Problem 3. Go ahead and do problem 3. All right, let's see how you did. All right, I've got positive 8x and negative 4x. Since the signs are different, that means I'm going to subtract them. Remember I told you guys, this sign is always the sign of your bigger number. 8's the bigger number. If I did 8 minus 4, that gives me positive 4. Now I'm pulling out my greatest common factors of each column and row. And my final answer is x plus 8, doesn't matter the order you put these in, and x minus 4. Okay, go ahead and do number 4 now. All right, I put my first term, last term. Now I multiply. Numbers that multiply to 20. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Now, I need to multiply to a negative number. So my only options are multiplying to a negative number is a positive number and a negative number. So one has to be positive, the other has to be negative. What did we say about this right here? That's always going to be the sign of your bigger number. So go to your bigger numbers here and make them negative. That should help you. Now, since they're opposite signs, you know one's positive, one's negative, you got to subtract. So 1 minus 20, that's negative 19. Not looking for that. 2 minus 10, that's negative 8. Nope. 4 minus 5, that's negative 1. That's what I'm looking for. So my negative 5 is the bigger number. Then positive 4x. Pull out my greatest common factors. Hopefully you guys see the pattern of writing negative 5 and 4, or whatever your factors are, 3 times. All right, last 2 problems here. We've got x squared minus 16. What's different about this? There's only 2 terms. You're missing that middle guy. Look at this right here. You got 1, 2, 3. So which one are you missing in number 5? It's that middle term. So if you're missing a middle term, here's how you're going to write it. X squared plus 0x. That's what you're going to write. Plus 0x, and then you're going to continue to write that last term. So again, if it's missing the middle term, you have to go ahead and fill that in. Now you're going to do the same thing. First term, first box, last term in the last box. Now, that middle term is 0. So you're finding numbers that multiply to negative 16, but they have to add up to 0. Well, my options to multiply to 16 are 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and 4 and 4. Well, if we need to add up to 0, it's a good idea to know that if you have the same number but opposite signs, that's going to give you 0. So let's look at these 4s right here. If I made 1 4 positive, 1 4 negative, if I multiply them, do I get negative 16? Yes, I do. What about if I add them? If I have 4 fingers, I take 4 fingers away, what do I get? 0. So those are what I'm going to put inside my boxes. So even though it still has 2 terms, you can still do it by adding that 0x. Now you're going to repeat the same process we have been doing. Pull out your greatest common factor, and you are done. Your factors are x plus 4 and x minus 4. Last problem, number 6. It says x squared minus 1. Only 2 terms, missing that middle term. Add that 0x. So now we need to add up to 0, but multiply to negative 1. So draw your box. Put your first term in the first box, last term in the last box. Negative 1x squared. We need it to multiply to. My only options are 1 and 1. Since it's negative, 1 has to be positive, 1 has to be negative. What's 1 minus 1? 0. So there we go. We've got a 1x and a negative 1x. Do we need the 1s in front? No, we don't. But if you want to put them there, go for it. Now pull out your greatest common factors. 1x and negative 1, the only thing they have in common is just a positive 1. And down here, the only number they have in common is just a negative 1. So my factors are x minus 1 and x plus 1. You have now completed your notes for day 1. Please go ahead and do the exit ticket, which will count as your attendance and your classwork for the day. Good luck.